We don't want to just teach them how to learn just to fly it. Like they could figure it out if they went into a backyard and tried to teach themselves to fly. We want to teach them to be professionals and to know how to fly it in any situation, how to fly it in an emergency, giving them comprehensive understanding so that you're confident.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 93. Ever wonder how we're going to train all of the new UAV pilots? If you ask today's guest, she would say she's got this. Abby Speicher is the CEO and founder of Dart Drones, a flight school for drone pilots. Dart Drones is the national leader in drone training, consultation, and expert support for new drone pilots. Their mission is to provide the highest quality training on unmanned aerial systems to ensure the safe integration of drones into the national airspace. In this show, Abby talks about how she started Dart Drones, the courses offered, and how the company is preparing this generation's UAV pilots for the commercial drone industry. Let's pick up the interview where I ask Abby to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Abby Speicher, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Dart Drones, which is a national flight school for drone pilots.
How long has Dart Drones been around?
We started researching Dart Drones in 2014 and doing a lot of research and trying to figure out where the market was headed. And then we sort of officially launched after I graduated from Babson in May of 2015.
Tell us the story behind Dart Drones. How did it get started?
I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Right when I was little, I always dreamed of being an entrepreneur. And as Shark Tank just came out, I imagined of someday being on the show. And I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad's an entrepreneurship professor, and just like a lot of different family members have started companies. So it's always been my dream. And I started my first company when I was 17, which manufactured purses in Ghana, Africa. And then we sold the purses here in the United States and sent the money back to fund education for kids in Ghana. So I loved working on that business. I worked in it for 5 years, and I just knew that I always wanted to have my own company and be working on something from scratch is what I loved to work on, and I loved to problem solve. So I went to Babson College's MBA program in entrepreneurship. And while at Babson, I sort of stumbled on drones and started collecting information. And we entered a business plan competition in my hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania, and just sort of blew the judges away with flying a drone in the competition. And we ended up winning the competition and having some seed money to get started. And it sort of just spiraled from there. And when I graduated from Babson, I had won another business plan competition at Babson, which gave us the first funds to hire our first 5 summer interns who helped us really take the company from 0 to 100 in a summer. And then it's just been spiraling from there.
Were the business plans all about creating some type of training program for drone operators?
We were really pretty vague. We said that we were going to be drone services. So we said we would do repair, maintenance. We would sell them. We actually started off by selling DJI drones. And then we realized that it was just too many business models at once. So we committed to training because we had already brought on a bunch of pilots onto our team who were flying under our 333 exemption and doing the training.
What do you mean when you say you stumbled upon drones?
So actually, it was my dad's idea. He had watched the Jeff Bezos 60 Minutes episode, and he helps the aviation department at his college, which is Marywood University. And they were trying to think of a way to sort of revamp the aviation department. And he got really turned on to drones through that Jeff Bezos 60 Minutes episode. And then just started selling me on it for a few months. And then I got connected with someone who had experience with drones in the military. And we sort of just entered that business plan competition for fun, just to see what people would think of it. And then once we won, we had $10,000 to spend. It just started spiraling because we had some money to actually go to conferences and do some research.
Okay, so let's turn to the training courses. What can users expect in terms of the type of courses offered by Dart Drones?
So we have both online and in-person training. So in our in-person training, we have a Phantom and Inspire flight training where we teach you how to fly. So someone could expect a full day of training. We usually rent out a hotel room we fit about 8 people in the class. And then there'll be a place to fly outside the hotel. We're very conscious of airspace and making sure that there's a field next door. And then they'll rotate from indoor to outdoor training. And then for our Part 107 test prep course, that's another full day with usually between 8 and 10 people in the class. And that class, after you complete the in-person training, you get full access to our online Part 107 test prep course, which has 300 test questions. And there's just a lot of great content in there to get you ready for the exam. We also have an online starting a drone business course that teaches you about marketing and finding customers, insurance issues, legal issues. And that's an online course. And then also our Drones for Beginners course is really your first 100 questions about drones. We answer that in a 45-minute video. We've also started doing mission-specific training for corporate clients and for government agencies. So we'll go and send our flight instructor, and they'll travel to a group from an organization or to a fire department and do custom training for that organization. And we've started doing some more advanced training, such as thermal imaging and matrice training, and continuing to grow.
Who's most apt to take the courses today? Are the students hobbyists, recreational, or commercial pilots?
It's mostly commercial users. It started off as recreational users until Part 107 got announced, and then it really switched over to commercial users. And the commercial users, they're usually sent from their company and they're told, we want you to be our drone guy, figure it out. And the people are just completely overwhelmed and they don't know how to get started. So we try and give them the resources they need to go back to their company and get a drone program started within their company.
In terms of the cost, what do the courses range?
For the in-person classes, it's between $580 and $670 for the day. And then for private trainings, we usually multiply by the number of people and how much travel is required. And then our online Part 107 is $250.
With so much free information online and the many other training outlets available, what makes Dart Drones uniquely qualified to provide the training?
Yeah, there is a lot of information that's free. I think part of the problem is sifting through it and finding what you actually need to know. And what we're focused on is having a team of professional pilots who understand aviation, who are helping people get into aviation. And right now, obviously, drones are getting easier to fly. There's tons of different Part 107 test prep courses and trainings out there. But what we're focused on now is going more upmarket for much bigger clients and solving bigger business problems. So we've launched a consulting arm of our business where we'll go in and help a company or an organization launch drones within their company. We'll build standard operating procedures manuals. We'll build UAS integration plans. So there's a lot more that goes into it for a company than just for an individual.
Does that mean your company focus is evolving beyond something broader than a training company?
I would say it's still sort of training. I mean, we trained some organizations on how to fly their drone, and they would know how to fly it, but they didn't know exactly what to do with it or how it was going to add value for their customers. So they came to us asking us for more information. So we're finding that it's like a consulting really interwoven with training where we're giving people custom answers. But I guess we are expanding a little bit out of training, but just because we're getting into more custom problem solving for organizations.
I bring that up because as the industry continues to change, companies seem to be pivoting in some way to show real value in using drones.
Yeah, and I think as we're changing, it's changing who we're focused on. So we were completely focused on recreational users when we first started, and then it shifted over really to drone entrepreneurs. So we call them people who are starting drone services companies, and now our focus is on bigger organizations. So we have definitely shifted as the industry continues to change like every 6 months. So we're definitely changing too.
Do you see new trends that might cause Dart Drones to respond differently with its offerings?
I would say a few months ago, you would ask someone, okay, what do you want to do with your drone? And they would say, everything, like whatever drones do. And it was sort of like, okay, like that's hard to help you then if like you're doing everything. But now what I've noticed is people have really, really focused what they want to do with their drone, and they're not interested in other areas, it seems like. So now when someone calls, they say, I'm interested in aerial inspection, and they're very specifically doing pipeline inspection. So that to us is exciting because it means that the market is becoming more educated and finding out where they're going to add value. So for us, it's exciting because now we can build courses because it's a more educated customer.
Do you get requests for training on a specific type of drone? Or is it more about applications that could be used by a variety of UAVs?
Well, right now we really only train on DJI products, but we do get a lot of requests about Autel and Unique and 3DR Solos. But right now we don't have training on those yet. But I have noticed a lot more of an interest in like thermal imaging, or someone's trying to do roof inspections, and they're really trying to, like, they've learned to fly their drone, and now they want to know, how do they really become an expert at one specific use case.
Has anyone asked to learn how to do something really out of the box or unusual?
Yeah, of course. We just have one company that I'm still confused as to what they want to do. One of our sales guys had talked to them. Somehow they're phantom to carry a torch and to drop the torch at the top and light a flare at the top of a tower or something. And I don't even know. I mean, I was a little bit confused on what they were planning on doing. But so they wanted to learn like how to actually drop something, and we had to look and see if they were actually allowed to do that. But I think they're applying for some waivers and that kind of thing to figure that out.
Well, maybe we'll see it in a future Olympic torch lighting ceremony.
Yeah, that would be cool, wouldn't it?
You mentioned that the company conducts trainings at hotel locations. Does that mean you rotate trainings around the country, or do you have locations that are set in certain cities?
Our flight instructors are set in 45 different cities, but they rent locations depending on the client. So if we do a private lesson, we'll go to the police department, or we'll go like to the company's headquarters. But for our weekend open enrollment classes, we just rent hotel rooms when they're available.
Are there areas of the country that are growing and surging higher than other regions?
Yeah, Texas has always been a big area of interest. California, those classes seem to do really well, and Boston and Chicago. So those are our 4 highest sold out classes.
Considering that you started the company with very little knowledge of drones yourself, how would you characterize your own learning curve when it comes to drones?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's so much to know about drones and aviation and the regulations. What we stick to is having experts. So we have 45 flight instructors who are all experts in different areas of expertise, and each of them have a really, really specific area of expertise, especially in aviation and in drones. So I talk to them a lot, trying to keep updated on each of their different areas. But of course, I mean, there's just so much to know, and it's even hard to talk to someone who's new to drones because they don't know who DJI is. And I'm like, how do you not know who DJI is? Aren't they taking over the world? It's funny to talk to someone who's new to drones. But yeah, I mean, of course, there's so much to know. It's changing all the time. There's new manufacturers all the time, new use cases. So learning a lot and just trying to retain all the information.
What's been the greatest challenge so far in creating the business?
I think the greatest challenge is building out our team. It took us a long time to get a really, really solid team. And the reason we're able to grow so quickly now is because we have such a great team. We were really built at the beginning with interns, and then we had our pilots who are our flight instructors. But at the beginning of Dart Drones, we just had almost every person who got their MBA at Babson at one point working for Dart Drones. So it was hard that we were just sort of taped and glued together with someone who would help us for a month, and then they'd get their dream job, and someone else who would be able to help us for a few months, and then it would get passed to someone else. So for me, the biggest thing I'm proud of is having such a solid team that can keep us running even if I'm out of town for a few weeks.
Was there ever a point when you wondered if this thing was really going to work?
You have to wonder that all the time, especially if you're just working so hard and it just doesn't seem like it's working out the way you expected it to. I think prior to Part 107 being announced, it was just exhausting. Because half the people that called us, we would explain the 333 exemption to them, and they would be like, oh, why? I need a pilot's license? Okay, see ya. And that's half of our conversations were spent telling people that they couldn't fly commercially. Since then, it's been a lot better, and it's been we've been moving forward really quickly. We knew that our Shark Tank episode was going to come out, so we were just trying to grow as quickly as possible. But I would say before that, it was pretty exhausting not knowing if the industry would ever open up.
Obviously, Part 107 caused a great surge in business interest. Can you talk about what that did for Dart Drones?
Yeah, I mean, we saw a huge surge when Part 107 was announced, and then I would say twice as many people interested in training leading up to when Part 107 came out in August. And then from there was another, August 29th, you could see it on our website's analytics, there's just a huge spike. And then from there, I think the interesting thing is that there was a huge interest that first week that Part 107 came out. And I think a lot of us expected the industry to just explode from there and just hockey stick up. but I don't know if it truly has as we had all expected. I think there's been a slow trickle of more people interested, but I wonder if some of like the people who projected the industry didn't take into account how long it takes for a police department or a fire department or even a company to say, you know what, let's add this whole new service. Let's get someone become a remote pilot. Let's like invest in drones. And I think that's taking a lot longer than people anticipated.
Yeah, it's one thing to buy a drone and fly one mission. It's a whole different story to start a program with several drones and a number of missions.
Oh, yeah. And just creating the rules and trying to say who can fly when and how much wind is too much wind. I mean, all that is so complex. And I mean, companies just don't usually just have a pilot sitting there ready to make it for them. I mean, it's going to take time, I think, for the companies to see someone else's model work and then copy it. But I think that's going to be like 1 to 2 years from now.
Now, do you track metrics on the number of people that take your Part 107 class and pass the test?
Yes, we have a 99% pass rate. And the only person that we talked to that didn't pass, they took it the day that Part 107 came out. And part of the thing that was so interesting was I had talked to the FAA, I think it was at Exponential, and they were like, oh, it's going to be easy, like Part 107, you don't even need to study. Like someone told me that. And I was sort of like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, we're building this class, but I guess if you don't need to study, that's interesting. So we tried not to make the class overkill because we didn't want it to be too much and to be us be like exaggerating how difficult it was. And I took the Part 107 exam on August 29th at 8 a.m. on the East Coast. So I was one of like the first ones to actually get to take it. And I left the exam, I passed, but I left the exam like that was so much harder than how could the FAA say that you didn't need to study for that? Like that was really, really difficult. So the person who didn't pass had taken it the first day. So after I got out of my exam, I ran home and sent an email to all of our customers. Don't take the test. Let us send you some more practice test questions so you're better prepared. So that was our one person that didn't get it.
Do you know if that person eventually got it?
They did. They went and took the test again.
What drives your passion to keep moving this company forward?
Yeah, I think I'm just excited to prove to myself that I can be like a real entrepreneur. I don't know when I'll really give myself that stamp of approval that I'm a real entrepreneur, but I keep just wanting to prove to myself that I can do it and to make a really great product and a really great company with a great team. So for me, it's just the challenge. Like I love a challenge. I love problem solving. There's different problems every day that we're dealing with. And to me, that's exciting. Like I don't know if I could ever have a job that wasn't problem solving. So I'm just having fun every day working on it. So it makes it easier, obviously, to continue to grow it.
Are there any lessons learned from your first business that you've applied to Dart Drones?
Yeah, I think something that I've noticed about myself is I love operations and continuing to make processes better. And I always avoid like sales or sort of like growing the company through like actually reaching out to clients. So I'm trying to make sure that I focus more on that and to like let something that's not perfect, like let it not be perfect for a little bit and focus on like getting people in our classes and getting people to know about us. So there are definitely lessons learned from the other company. And really, I think now, like my lessons learned from Dart Drones, if I were to start another company tomorrow, I could probably do it 10 times as fast. But it's just all becoming educated and learning how to do it and learning from real world like mistakes and real world problems.
As a successful entrepreneur, what advice would you give to a budding entrepreneur hoping to start a new company in the drone industry?
2 pieces of advice. The first is, I think, just to put your head down and keep working at it. Like I remember vividly graduating from Babson and just like seeing all the work that needed to happen ahead of us and like all the heartache and like late nights and what needed to happen and just feeling so exhausted and sort of like trapped thinking about it. But I mean, I made it through it. I put my head down and just took it day by day. So I would definitely recommend like don't get overwhelmed by it and just keep moving forward. And the second thing is a lot of people want to do a ton of research at the beginning and trying to have the perfect business before they ever speak to a customer. And I would definitely recommend just sort of going for it and learning from customers and trying to provide them the best service that you can at the beginning. Like our first Dart Drones class, I was like really embarrassed. Like I was like, this isn't perfect. Oh, there's like, we should have had this handout and we should have had lunch and we should have done this. And then, I mean, our students loved it. Like there was no other option really for them to get trained and they were just crashing their drones prior to meeting us. So it was just cutting myself a break and being like, okay, this is what we have now. And then learning what was important to the students because guessing is not going to have you figure out what your customers want.
Have there been any important mentors, either in this business or the prior business, that really helped you stay grounded and kept you pointed in the right direction?
Yeah, I think my Babson professors have been very involved and they keep me grounded. They have different areas of expertise. I think our pilots have been a huge asset to our team and making sure that we're really building the company to be respectful of aviation and make sure we're teaching people about aviation. So they've been really, really helpful, and their excitement keeps our team excited. So yeah, built with a ton of different mentors.
Going back to your class offerings for a moment, why should someone consider Dart Drones as a place to learn to fly a drone?
We don't want to just teach them how to learn just to fly it. Like, they could figure it out if they went into a backyard and tried to teach themselves to fly. We want to teach them to be professionals and to know how to fly it in any situation, how to fly it in an emergency, how to know what to do if you have to go into ADI mode. So we're focused on giving them comprehensive understanding so that you're confident. I know the first few times that I flew the drone, I was incredibly nervous because I didn't know. I'm someone who needs to understand the whole system and not just like, okay, just fly it like this and you'll be fine. And I think a lot of people that, especially the ones that come to our class, are those kind of people that want to understand something from A to Z before they're going to fly it, and they don't want to be irresponsible. So definitely from that perspective on learning to fly in a comprehensive way is important, but also getting started with your drone business. I mean, if you try to teach yourself, like, you can just spin your wheels for a really long time instead of having one of our flight instructors who's been talking to drone entrepreneurs and talking to people about starting their company, and then also our starting a drone business class, gives you like comprehensive, all the information you need so you can get started instead of not knowing if there's pieces missing.
How do your instructors approach a class so that newcomers feel at ease?
We rotate from indoor to outdoor training. So when you get to the class, they'll really line it up to bite-sized pieces of like, okay, we're going to go outside in a few hours and we're going to do our first flight. You're just going to take off and do a small square. And we set up cones so they know, like, if they go beyond the yellow cones, like they've gone too far, like take your hands off the sticks and take a breath and regather yourself. But we really set them up to start really small and learn to fly really the most basic flight and watch everyone get a chance to do that most basic flight and then slowly continue to move up to a little bit more difficult flights. So, I mean, our instructors are great, and we've trained like over 4,000 people, and they're really getting better and better every time. But our focus is on taking it very bite-sized pieces and setting someone up to be able to go home and practice and feel confident when they're practicing. Like, we don't tell people at the end of the class, you're ready to go fly your first gig. Like, they need to go practice, but we set them up to be able to set some constraints on themselves and go out and practice flying.
Are there any worries about crashing a drone?
It rarely ever happens, but we're really cautious about it and making sure that we're in a really open space, and that, like I said, if they go outside the cone, the blocked off area, that they know to let go. But of course that could happen. And usually we're flying our flight instructors' drones. So then our instructors are obviously very careful with their drones too.
What are the plans for Dart Drones moving forward?
We sort of think we figured out the open enrollment weekend classes and the online classes, and our focus is on more mission-specific training. And in particular, we're launching a certification program where it'll be a Dart Drones, like business type certification, where you could get an aerial media certification, aerial inspection certification, public safety. So we're working with our flight instructors who have expertise in those specific verticals and trying to create a standard, because that's something that we've heard from both companies and from drone entrepreneurs, that really talented people are getting undercut by people with very little experience, and companies are struggling to find the guy who has the great experience, and they're getting stuck with like the 17-year-old kid who just got a drone for Christmas. So we're trying to solve that problem and come up with a standard where we'll have an actual like check flight with our flight instructors.
And because Dart Drones offers classes on starting a business, I assume there's training on complying with rules and regulations. How about adopting best practices or standards?
Complying with rules is always part of our training, and we're always making sure people comply with rules. But as part of our consulting projects, we have been helping like police departments apply for COAs, and we've been doing standard operating procedures manuals and helping get companies waivers and airspace authorizations to make sure that they are complying with all the rules also.
And for my final question, Abby, what do you hope people will walk away with after taking a course by Dart Drones?
We hope that they walk away with a real respect for aviation and a respect that drones are flying in airspace where there are manned aircraft, and that they understand how important it is to be safe and be knowledgeable and really be confident in what they're doing so that they're not risking other people's lives by being unsafe.
That's it for episode 93 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed listening to Abby Speicher and hearing how Dart Drones is preparing this generation of UAV pilots for the commercial drone industry. I want to thank Abby for sharing her expertise and experience. If you'd like to learn more about Dart Drones and their courses, check out the website at dartdrones.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a positive review on iTunes. It always helps. Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll check out more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research, and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.